hey, this is pink. Nobody really talks about that. Why is this coconut water the color that it is? I'm sure I don't know. Welcome back to the Reads with Ears podcast, episode 4. I mean, we're going to get into the meat of it today. Guys, we're going to get down to the bone of this of the whole literary scene. And I'm so excited that you're here with me for this process. I don't know what I'd do without you. I truly don't. Can we talk about this? Can I talk about Dungeons and Dragons for a second? Oh, you know what? Never played it. Never played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. No. Until I was an adult and I started learning more about it. And I thought, I'm not going to lie. This sounds fun. I'm a huge nerd. Big fantasy nerd, right? I've been thinking about Dungeons and Dragons a lot because I just watched the movie again. Big fan. Chris Pine is a pine tree, I believe. His last name's a certain type of tree. I believe it's pine. I watched it again. I thought this movie's fantastic. The game is fantastic. Gosh, I must have been 24 or something when I was just like, you know what? The jig is up. The jig is truly up, and it's time to dance, baby. My dance card's not full. And what we need to do is we need to play Dungeons and Dragons. Me and my friends, right? But they had never done it, so I had to just I had to learn about it myself. I became the DM, despite having never played before. And I think it was just a joyful, it was a raucous good time, I think. But it's a big commitment, you know? It's a huge commitment, man. But I've been thinking about it a lot because I do think that D&D as a DM is excellent training for writers. I do. I've been thinking about that recently. This has been mentioned before, but you sit down as a DM and you write a little short story, essentially, for your party. And you kind of have broad strokes, the themes and kind of how you want it to go. But inevitably, it doesn't go how you plan. Because those characters, you know, your characters, your people at the table, they're always going to do something you don't expect, right? It's like, maybe the doggone, barkeep wears a key around his neck, and, it belonged to his great aunt. And, you gotta romance him. You know what I mean? Maybe he's like a gay barkeep, and he needs to be romanced in order to trust someone enough to give this key away. And then you feel pretty confident about that writing choice, right? And then boom, one of your characters says, you know what? I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill this barkeep because I'm chaotic evil or whatever. And buddy, you gotta roll with the punches because that's the whole point. You gotta let your chaotic evil character kill that barkeep, that poor gay man. You gotta let him do it. You gotta be adaptable. You gotta be adaptable as a writer, man. So if you're into it, man, give it a shot. Mamma mia. I haven't DM'd in some time for Dungeons and Dragons. I'd love to get back into it, but I'd also like to just be a character because DMing is a lot of work. And a guy's got a tight schedule. He does. Not too tight to not do this podcast. Just loose enough. And brother, that's what it's all about. God bless America. May the wings of liberty never lose a feather, dude. Dude, you know what's... I promise I'm going to talk about books eventually, right? Because that's the whole point. But Big Trouble in Little China by John Carpenter. Right? Kurt Russell. Bro, it has the actress who plays Samantha in Sex and the City. And I don't remember her name. But bro, that movie is so much fun. An inspiration. Truly. I don't know how many of you have seen Big Trouble in Little China. But, and I'm sure it's not going to be everybody's cup of pink, pink colored coconut water, right? But it's such a fun time, right? It's harkening back to these days in the 1980s when fun, I feel like, is driving a lot of these projects, right? Right? But thinking about a movie like Big Trouble in Little C, man, I mean, what are they trying to say? Nothing. It's just complete, absolute bedlam. It's nonsense. The whole point of the movie, the theme of the movie, is just fun. Comedy. It's silliness. He's making fun of himself, John Carpenter, right? Because John Carpenter, he did Escape from New York and stuff. That's like a serious movie, very cheesy 80s action movie. And then with Big Trouble in Little C, he's making fun of himself. That's how I took it anyway. Golly, it's a good one. It inspired me to not take my own writing so seriously. You know, because a lot of times, especially when I'm working on a project like I've been working on for as long as I've been working on one, I can lose the plot a little bit, literally, right? I need to complete works fast. If I'm working on a book, ideally, I want to have that done in a year, because if I don't, I start losing it a little bit. Start losing the plot. It gets a little big. Start forgetting things. But I've been working on this project a long time, this book I'm working on now, and it's meant to be cheesy. It's meant to be a cheesy kind of action adventure story, a tribute truly to the treasure hunting stories that I grew up with in, the decade, like I would say 05 to like 2015. And it's a tribute to that. But I take it too serious sometimes, and watching a fun movie like Big Trouble in Little China, it's really focused me up and say, hey, Garrett, you gotta have fun with this story. You gotta sit down and you just gotta write. And if it doesn't always make sense, that's what a second draft is for. It's what a third draft is for. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. I highly recommend that movie. It's so earnest. It's so earnest. I love that. Is there enough earnestness in storytelling today? I'm just not so sure. I'm not so sure, but I love to see it when there is. There's an importance in being earnest. And that's a play by Oscar Wilde. Who doesn't like pirates, man? Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, man. Ugh. Bloom is that's a crazy last name. Is that his real last name, do you think? Orlando Bloom? That's what a flower does, man. You know what, man? You know a movie that Orlando Bloom is in? Kingdom of Heaven by Ridley Scott. I don't know, man. I'm talking about movies this time around. What do you think about that one, man? You know what I think about that? I think very little about that movie, other than the fact that King Baldwin is in there, King of Jerusalem. He was the king after the First Crusade, got leprosy. He's a young guy, right? And kind of tragic. Maybe a pretty good king. Who knows? That reminds me of this book called Crown of the World I read as a young guy, young kid, really. And it was by, I think his name is Sajusivan, Nathan Sajusivan or something like that. It's like Norwegian, maybe. But he wrote that book, and I remember as a kid, I read it. It's about two knights who are over in the Levant, like Outremer, Jerusalem area, right? Right around the Second Crusade, or a little bit before, I think. And I remember liking it a lot because the main character is like a teenager. It's sort of like a young adult book, right? Main character is a teenager in this book, but it treated... Maybe I was a young adult reading it, and that's why I liked it so much, because it treated the reader like an adult. A lot of the books I would read as a kid, even like Treasure Island and stuff, it's like you read about the kid protagonist, and they're kind of impotent. You know what I mean? Or The Hobbit, bro. I remember The Hobbit. You're reading this whole book, the Battle of the Five Armies is coming up, and then Bilbo gets knocked unconscious and just skips the whole battle. And I was like, bro, what are we here for? Character development, I'm a Neanderthal. Give me the battle, bro. I want it to be action, bro. I'm a baby. And I still feel that way. I mean, I love The Hobbit. Who doesn't, right? But I like Crown of the World because you were in the action, right? There were a couple battles in there, and he gave him full detail. You know, the protagonist is in there. He's on horseback. He's swinging his sword. It's fun. I thought it was so fun, honestly. Oh, this is good stuff. I don't care if it's pink. That is good coconut water. Do you guys have a favorite medieval book? I do, for sure. But I want to know. I need more medieval book recommendations, I think. Mine is for sure Between Two Fires. It's Between Two Fires for sure. I'm looking at it off screen right now. Oh, it's so fun. It's like a fantasy medieval book, kind of low fantasy. Oh, it's just perfect. Maybe. I hate to. No, it's perfect. Whatever. That's my rating on it. It's so good. You know what? It's about a knight who is living in I believe it's the mid 1300s in France. And it's during the 100 Years' War between France and England, right? And he's knighted right before the Battle of Crécy, which is a very famous battle which the French definitely lost during the 100 Years' War. He's knighted right before that, and they ride into battle, and he gets shot in the face by an arrow, which is a tough break, no matter where you come from, you know? Doesn't kill him, though. But then the war, he kind of goes bandit after this, and he's kind of a roaming bandit, used to be a knight. This is the height of the Black Plague in France, which means that it's functionally the apocalypse, right? It's just like 3/4 of Europe's population is being completely decimated at this point. There's ghost towns everywhere. Everyone's desperate. They think it's the end times. The way that Christopher Buehlman, who's the author, realizes this vision of 1300s France. This is a France in the middle of a war that they have been losing for more than 50 years. This is a France that is in the middle of the Black Death, unprecedented plague that is sweeping the nation. This is a France that's very faith is divided during what they call, I believe, the Great Western Schism was happening at this time, where there's one pope in Rome and there is another pope in Avignon, France, and many people don't know who's the valid pope. I mean, it's a time of turmoil. Who wouldn't think that it is the apocalypse if you lived at that point? Most of the French do. And Christopher Buehlman does a wonderful job of making it a kind of actual apocalypse where real angels and devils are released onto earth battling. It is exquisite. It is an exquisite book. I love it. And so the main character, Thomas, is tasked with taking this young girl in a very Last of Us-esque mission from Normandy, France, all the way to Avignon, which is in the south, right? To give her to the Pope because she has some sort of spiritual significance, it's thought. And all the crazy hijinks that comes along with that. There's a sequence set in Paris that's incredible. Very scary. This is a medieval horror book, right? I can't recommend it enough. Yeah, I don't think Panera Bread is that good, actually. I think it's overpriced for what you get. And I know some people are like, well, what about the mac and cheese? Get it at Costco. I mentioned Costco in every single episode of this because I love it very much. Get the Panera Bread mac and cheese there, man. And don't even tell me about the dang bowl that they hollow out and put a soup in. I mean, okay, that is kind of cool, actually. Okay, I'll give it to you because I'm not going to hollow out my own bread, bro. But other than that, it's like, what are we truly paying for at the end of the day? A dang panini, bro, that's dry as the Sahara Desert. Not me, man. I'm nobody's fool in that way. And I'm definitely not Panera Bread, bro. I'm definitely not their fool. It should be called Pandora Bread. Because you open up that door and it releases evil into the world every time. That's what my mom always used to say. Anyway, romance, huh? Romance books, baby. Woo! What can you even say about that? They're huge right now. They're massive. I'm talking about monumental, dude. Titanic. That was a romance movie, bro. You know what I love? Romance is huge, and I support that in the book community. I don't really write romance. I'd like to, for sure. I think it'd be fun. And there will be romance elements in some books I'm cooking up right now. But romance is huge, and I think, I'm on social media here, the book side of social media. It's a lot of women read romance, but a lot of women read in general, right? More so than men. And I think that's nice. I think that's fantastic. I don't really know particularly why that is. I've definitely noticed it. It's I've looked at the stats, But I do think it's super cool that women are reading like this, man. I mean, I wish the fellows would do it more. I wish the guys would read a little more. But what can you say? They don't do it as much. Do women have a better imagination? Is it more, what is it? I don't know. Do guys like watch it? We're visual, so we watch movies. Maybe less patience. I don't know. It takes patience to read. Now, I'm a guy who's a reader, but I am an audiobook guy, right? So maybe it is a patience thing. I like to listen to an audiobook when I'm vacuuming the carpet, when I'm cleaning the bathroom, when I'm washing a dish, when I'd do it in the shower if I could. But I don't have a speaker anymore. I used to. I actually have no idea where it ended up. What makes a good romance, though? I wonder. What makes a good romance book? Because there's so many tropes. Forced proximity. I've heard of that one. Enemies to lovers. That might be the oldest one. Look at Pride and Prejudice, kind of, How did these tropes get started, I wonder? But what makes a good one, man? I've thought about this a lot because I think that there's bare bones to storytelling that applies to all stories pretty much. You're making a scary story. You're making an action story. You're making something funny, something romantic. I think it's all about the tension, right? It's all about I think Brandon Sanders had said, what do your characters want and why can't they have it? And that's every story pretty much, right? Or what do they not know that they want? What do they want and what do they need? That's what he said. And why can't they have either? And then by the end, they either have either or they don't, right? And you see that in every story, man. But romance, for sure, right? Because maybe they don't know that they need to be together, the characters. And so they don't want it. Maybe they want to be together, but they can't. It's got to be something holding them back, right? That's such a challenge to write. Fun challenge, but a challenge. Because that's in everything, right? That's what you're writing an action story. You're like, what does the character want to get? And everything that's in the way of them getting it. That's tough to write. Because you got to think of a story. You got to have your characters plan it in a way that they would plan it. And then you have to think of ways that are going to thwart their efforts. And then you also have to think of the ways that they plan around, they are adaptable and get around the obstacles in their way. That's a lot of thinking for a guy like me, whose intelligence is sometimes in question, right? But we do the best we can. And at the end of the day, I enjoy it, even if it's not the best thing ever. And I'll tell you what, honey, you gotta like writing. If you're trying to write a book, you've gotta like it, partner, or else you're not gonna finish. It's as simple as that, bro. I'm late to the game on this stuff, man. I'm always late to the game on talking about books that are popular right now. I know that Red Rising is popular, or was, I don't know, a few months ago. I'm not even sure if it still is. But here's my thing. Red Rising, it's in my TBR list, but I put it in there like last year, which means I'm not going to get to it for a while. That list is like 160 books long. And here's the thing, I'm a huge mood reader. You know, the mood's got to strike. And I'm like, okay, I'll read this now. And and I've got like a million series in there that I got to read. Red Rising is another one. And so it's like, it would be smart to read it now. And then say, hey, here's my thoughts on this book. Here's my thoughts on like Minotaur Milking Dairy Farm or whatever that like romance book is that everyone's talking. Here's my thoughts on Heated Rivalry, you know, couple of gay hockey players having a good time together. You know, I hear it's a good story. But at the end of the day, it's like, listen, I'm a mood reader, man. And it's, you know, I can't always talk about what's topical. Sometimes I'm going to talk about sometimes I'm going to talk about the Epic of Gilgamesh. And you're like, Garrett, listen, man. Credit where it's due, Epic of Gilgamesh, you know, it's a real one, but at the end of the day, it's 5,000 years old. And not a lot of people are talking about it right now. It doesn't have those nice little romantic-y elements that's really getting the people going these days. But at the end of the day, man, someone's got to talk about Someone's got to talk about Gilgamesh, man. Not enough people talk about Gilgamesh. I, in fact, actually have never read it. I don't know why I pulled that example out. But I guess it's worth a read, man. There's a flood in it. That's what I heard. Which is a timeless trope. I like Beowulf, man. I'm a little all over the map today. But I like Beowulf. I read it a few years back. Very short. Right? Read it in college. That's a good story, though, man. That's timeless right there. Ugh. There's a dragon in it. There's a giant. It's a beautiful story, man. I like it. The theme of it, man, when he dies at the end and he can't take the gold with him. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was an animated film, Beowulf, that came out in the early 2000s. And I remember the giant's mom in there looked like Angelina Jolie. What are we doing here? That movie was just a little bizarre, bro. Like, okay, a little artistic license. You want to make the giant's mom look like Angelina. Go crazy, dude. Call me Brad Pitt. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, like, having Beowulf fight the giant butt naked, why was that? Why do we have to do that? I mean, I respect it, though. I mean, that actually is kind of cool, because in the play, it's not a play, in the poem, I think it says he's naked when he fights the giant Beowulf. But I think that's a lot of times taken to mean that he just doesn't have weapons on him, like he's naked, like, for battle. But it could mean he's fighting a giant butt-ass naked. And I think that is kind of, that goes hard a little bit. Because, like, who wants to fight anyone naked? I don't. And especially not a giant, bro. But I do think it's kind of cool. It lends... I take it back. I thought it was weird at first. Now that I'm talking about it, I think it's cool. Because it lends a kind of epic, historical vim to the story that I enjoy. And I think you see it as well in that movie, The Northman. I don't want to spoil that movie, so I'm going to keep it a little vague. That's an incredible movie, by the way. It's by the same... It's Robert Eggers, who did Nosferatu. But at the end of The Northman, the protagonist and the antagonist have a battle at the gates of hell, which is really just like a volcano. And they're fighting on the slopes of this volcano, which is already pretty epic come on. And they got like the shield and the sword and nothing else, like they're naked. I kind of forget why they're naked in the context of that story. But I was like, this is kind of sick. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because it's something you'd never see anymore, and it feels very epic. And I'm not really sure why I feel that way about it. You know what's funny about that though? They like do a they like it's an R-rated film, and there's nudity in it, like female nudity and male nudity, I think. I'm pretty sure. But in that battle, they strategically like censor the two guys fighting with like their shields, or like smoke from the volcano. And I remember thinking, brother, we've seen the most heinous violence in this movie. We've seen nudity, female nudity, pretty graphic, right? But we can't see like the naked guys who are fighting. We have to do a little censor with the smoke. Not that, but I just thought creatively, I was like, what, why? Like, if you're gonna commit to having the protagonist and antagonist in their birthday suits fighting on a slope of a volcano, I'm here for it. That's sick, I think. But like, bro, I think we're all adults here. We can see a little nudity. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm too like, I was an EMT, bro. Like, there's, I've seen it all. And so it's not like, I'm not like a Puritan when it comes to that, because I'm just like, bro, who cares? It's the human body. Like, it's not going to incite any, sensual feelings necessarily, And if it does, it's like, look yourself in the mirror, bro. You can't look at a naked human body, man or woman, without, associating that with something sexual. Brother, you need to relax, Like, as an adult, it's like, calm down. I can see if you're like a 14-year-old or something, and you're like going through puberty, and everything is like, you look at a pair of, you look at a well-shaped tree, and you're gonna be thinking illicit thoughts. I understand that, because that's a tough time to be alive. You're going through puberty. But as an adult, it's like, bro, relax. You can't see a couple of naked individuals trying to kill each other on a volcano without, calling 1-800, companionship.com. Like, brother, you need to take a cold shower, drink some coconut water, and honestly, maybe smell some smelling salts or something. Just like, get your head right, because this is no time to be alive. We need you to focus out here. That being said, I think sex in books is a little weird. Necessary sometimes for the plot, of course. It's not my cup of tea. I know. What am I even saying? That's like dominant in the bookish community right now. And I'm not yucking anybody's yum, okay? I'm just saying sometimes that makes me laugh a little bit. Like the sex, and you're reading it and you're like, okay, bro. It's just a little goofy. I don't know. Sometimes, all right? Other times you're just like, wow, these characters are in love or whatever. Or like, I get it. But it's a little silly sometimes. Dude, the description sometimes, oh my gosh, bro. That makes me laugh. I don't even want to use some of the descriptions on here because I don't know if that's appropriate. But boy, you got to be creative with it, man. Here's the thing. Actually, dude, this is my opinion. I think that like sex in books, that it's better. It's almost more titillating. The more that's like the more that's inferred. But I could be in the minority on that one, because that's the equivalent of having Bilbo getting knocked out at the beginning of the Battle of the Five Armies. But except that's for like the action, and I'm talking about a different kind of action, right? So like, I always think it's a little bit more titillating when you're almost like reading a book and you're like, wait a minute, did they hook up? That's scandalous and kind of sexy. But I'm almost definitely in the minority on that, because I know a lot of you like to get into the little nitty gritty of it. You like to hear about it. You like to hear dimensions, right? You want to hear about the physics of it. You want to hear about You want to hear about the gravity of the situation, you know? You want to hear about the temperature in the room. You want to know, all sorts of stuff. And you know what? That's your prerogative, man. That's your prerogative. I'm not going to yuck your smut yum. All I'm saying is, I like a little bit left to the imagination, okay? And that's my prerogative. That being said, God bless America. You know what I mean? Because what would we do without it, Well, I mean, shoot, man. I guess I'll talk about a big takeaway from today's podcast. A little rambly, a little talking about movies more than books. But hey, give a guy a break. I mean, listen. You want me to read more than one book a week? I'm doing the best I can, okay? And I read A Real History of the Pirates, and I thought, what's my big takeaway from that book is how much piracy is still a thing. And she mentions this about 7 times in the book, how much it relies on a land-based community in order for piracy to function. The writer the professor says piracy is bad for large-scale economy, but good for local economies. And so a lot of times local economies will aid and abet pirates, and would and still do this because it's beneficial to them, right? And people feel like their backs against a wall. I think that's interesting. I think in my future writing, if I write about pirates, when I do, right? Because everybody's got to, of course. It's good to know that. It's good to know the network of how piracy functions and how the powers that be will use piracy. It's just an interesting book in that way. Big takeaway for the listeners and the viewers of this lovely piece of content that I've put together. My takeaway for you is, please, this has nothing to do with books, but it could, go and watch the film Big Trouble in Little China by John Carpenter. You'll be doing yourself a favor, you'll be doing me a favor, and you'll be doing your community a favor. And by way of that, the whole world. And if you do that for me, I will do all sorts of things for you. No holes barred. That's it. Thanks for watching. It means more to me than I'll ever be able to express in words, spoken or written, and I love you guys. And read to write, and read with your ears, and be good. And don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And that still leaves you with a lot of options. Am I done with this? I am. Ciao for now. Ciao for now.